What's up, everyone, and welcome to Cryopodcast, where we talk about what we love about Warframe, its greatest successes, how we, the players, received it, and areas of improvement. We're a group of players from Umbra Templarii Clan that range from seasoned veterans, hardcore to casual, players and newbies. Everything discussed or will be discussed is all our individual opinion. So let's jump right in. Tonight we have Jay, Andre, JB, Tyler, and myself, Anton. Today we'll be talking about lag. Oh my god, lag. So anyone who has ever
Oh my god.
experienced any kind of like
Wag.
sorry, what any kind of video games, right? Then it's like screen lag, input lag, internet lag. It doesn't matter if you grew up like N64, you didn't have the right TV. There was like like lag between your system and the TV, right? Or your controller sucked, and you say, "I swear I pressed the button," but it's like half a second late or whatever.
Oh,
Everyone's experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
So in Warframe, I guess what kind of lag issues have you guys faced? And what are some good moments if there have ever been anything like that? Good moments in lag, bad moments in lag.
Mm-hmm. You guys want to go first? I have a lot to say.
All right, how about we start with my classic story. Let's get that out of the way.
All right, go
So back when I was learning how to Eidolon hunt with Jay and Andre and Tyler, I was also dealing with like really bad internet. And there's nothing on DE. This is just bad internet in general because I was playing through a VPN. My family had a VPN, and so it got so bad that like during the fight, I was the Trin going out to get lures, and they were just like watching me like move from one end of the plains of Eidolon to the other, like complete opposite ends of the map.
I remember this.
It's just like I blinked across, like what the hell's going on? And by the time like I think I got the lures, they were already done with the hunt, and they were waiting at the gate, and I was so pissed. And what did I sound like, Jay?
Well, there was I don't know, it was really choppy. 'Cause you used your VPN, so you were coming really choppy through Discord as well. It was like
I was so mad. I was cussing my head off.
Screaming, and even the F bombing, like fuck wasn't even like fuck. It was just like ah. It was like this sucks because it's absolutely terrible. Yeah.
No.
I was so mad because like the only thing I could hear coming into my headphones was the sound of you guys laughing, and that just made me so much more angry.
yeah, you actually logged. I think you logged off.
My gameplay thing, they were just laughing at how bad my lag was.
I think you rage quit. I think that's what happened. But I remember you I remember at some points when you did come through and you're like, "What are you talking about? I'm here, and we're like, no.
Yeah,
You're not
on my screen.
here.
I'm sitting right next to you guys.
Yeah, you're 800 meters away. You're 800 meters away. Yeah. You're like where the beach is, the beach lure, like all the way, like west.
Man.
See that?
I think if I was next to you, like what's that spot by Twin Horns? Maybe it was somewhere kind of near.
It was a lake spawn. Yeah, it was a lake spawn. I think. Yeah.
God.
See, but you were like you're on the other end of the map, and and I was like, can everyone press M just to confirm? And everyone like, I think pressed M, and they're like, holy shit, he's like, he's way across the map. What the fuck's going on? Yeah.
Oh man.
From what I remember on my screen, he was flying in his Arcwing towards us, and he was just bouncing back and forth every time.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine what that looks like for you guys. Oh man.
It's like someone stuck you on a rubber band and just kept pulling you back every time you try to go forward.
Yeah.
I was bouncing like that. Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
Actually, that I didn't see. I didn't see the rubber banding. I just saw him.
I saw that. That was amazing.
Oh, Andre was probably the host.
Yeah.
Most likely was. And on my screen, I just see you bouncing back and forth trying to get him. Just like that.
Yep. There. I think like with DE and lag, there are a lot of issues that I think DE gets blamed for stuff that are not related actually towards. Sadly, towards. Yeah. It's stuff that they're not actually responsible for. Like I'm not going to I'm sure when a lot of the community hears this, and anybody watching the video, they're probably gonna say, "What are you talking about? Like, there's tons of lag issues." Yeah, there are lag issues, but I think it's important to identify that. I think you guys can also relate. There's a lot of hate towards a lot of enterprises, communities, or like whatever, like
Not
organizations.
hate. I would say there's frustration, and the only person they can kind of turn that hate towards is DE because DE made the game.
Correct. That's right.
But I
That's
think
right.
there's definitely a lot of things like you said that have to do with how the game is programmed, like at least network wise, that people don't fully understand,
Yeah,
right?
including us. Including us. None of us are network administrators or network
Yeah, yeah.
specialists. We're not trained in any of that stuff. But the stuff actually I'm talking about is like even hardware related stuff, or like stuff that's they're related towards like their setups and stuff like that. It could be like a RAM issue. It could be for example, when I went to my friend's house who plays Warframe, she has like a pretty decent laptop for everything is set up really well. Like she's got the RAM, she's got a CPU, like it's good enough to run it. And she's got 16 gigs of RAM, and the bus speeds are pretty okay. She's got a decent motherboard. She's got everything set up okay. The only problem is her hard drive. She doesn't even have an SSD. In fact, she has a 5500 RPM hard disk drive, like the magnetic ones that actually rotate. And so this thing chugs. Yeah. So if I pull up Task Manager and let's say I I load like Microsoft Word while Warframe is on, like good luck. That thing is not. It like you could see the computer having to decide.
my
Okay,
god.
I'm loading Word now. Okay, hold on a second. I am loading Warframe now, and it just chugs. It's absolutely terrible, and it's incredible how one piece of hardware can really bog down gameplay. And for her, it's only just her hard drive. For me, for example, when I used to host when we back in the early phases of plays of Eidolon, CPU requirements back then weren't as hefty. So my CPU would run at 30%, and which is it's just fine. Now, if I host open world content, like it pretty much boosts rep to 80%, and even like right on the load, it'll go up to 100% on the
Oh
load.
my god.
Like when we all load out. So like there are times when the computer, even my computer, it chugs. My computer plays Warframe most of the time, like flawlessly. It's no problem. But there
So
are times when it does push it to the limit.
Yeah, you bring a good point there, where I guess the strength of the host depends on the hardware of their computer, but there's also the router and the modem and even the ISP to go through, right?
That's another thing, right? And there's Wi-Fi too. Like a lot of gamers play Wi-Fi, right? And like if you're not like landlined in, like I don't know how you guys play. I don't know if you guys play through Wi-Fi setups. Yeah, and Tyler, I think
I line when I can.
Right, exactly.
Via Wi-Fi.
When I make, yeah, right. You play on Wi-Fi, right? And then like even before, like when when you had like Singapore fiber internet, like you had like the basically the fiber infrastructure of Singapore, which is one of the best in the world, supporting your game. You still had hosting issues because of Wi-Fi. So like just simply like Wi-Fi connections. Like I think if you're like, it depends on how much even concrete, like physical objects get in the way, like what channel you're on, like a lot of these different things for the router, like that can all impact, like even what model you have to like the firmware to. There's like 1,000 things that we can like throw out that a lot of people have problems with, that I think they just immediately turn around and their first instinct is to blame the game, or they turn around and say, oh, this D, you can't do things properly, or that spew, that hate that goes out, just kind of, it's definitely there. So or frustration. Actually, I'd say it's kind of both.
Which is a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It's bad because D is getting a bad rep for stuff they're not responsible for, right? Like this is stuff that
They have no control over it.
Right.
Well, they have control over some things of it, which we'll get into in a moment. I think this is also a good point to kind of talk about how Warframe hosts their game on our computers, right? And what exactly their peer-to-peer model is. And I have in front of me this post by someone named Pave in the Warframe community, and he kind of explains what peer-to-peer is and what DE actually uses, and this includes a lot of large enterprises as well. So if I bring the analogy of like tabletop gaming, then right, let's say we all gather, to play like Monopoly or something, right? Peer to peer would be like everyone bringing their table, or they're hosting using their own table, right? But if one player drops out, everyone still has a table to play on, right? And all the players also refereed, so for example, like hit detection, scorekeeping and all that. Now, the communication is constant with all the players, but it can also get tangled because there's the constant requirement of all the players needing to watch over the tables of each other. That's like everyone having their own copy of Monopoly, basically.
So you're talking about
Now-
synchronization, like everyone's synchronized or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So if I move a piece, then everyone has to move my piece on their board to synchronize and say, okay, now my piece is here, and okay, got it. All right.
And then we have the listen server, which is what Warframe actually uses. And in this case, the host is the person with their copy of the game or the table, right? Now, if the host leaves, then the game is over. Now, Warframe solves this issue by
correction. It's called host migration. It's a wonderful host migration. Anyway, okay, yeah, sorry, go on.
Just table flips, and you're like,
that's cool. The table flips, the game is over. Well, that in the listen server setup, then the game would be over because the host is also the only one doing the refereeing, basically, right? The scorekeeping and everything. They handle all the pieces on the board, and everyone just makes the decisions, but then the host is the one that moves the pieces. Now, Warframe gets around this issue in the event that if the host drops out, then no problem. Someone else can be the host. We saved a state of the game basically during that host migration. Everything's fine.
Yep.
So it's elegant in some ways. Not. I mean, on paper it looks great. And the final model for game hosting for this is probably true for most online games now is there's a dedicated server that is hosted by the creators of the game. So let's say Monopoly, they open a store, they put out tables for everyone and copies of the game for everyone to play. That's great. And it doesn't matter how many people leave, the game is still there, it still exists. And since no one has to do any of the refereeing, scorekeeping, all the hosting stuff, they can just focus on playing the game.
Yep. Sounds right so far, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of clarification, I guess, on what Warframe or the community at least calls peer-to-peer. It's kind of a misnomer, and the term has just been used interchangeably now. So it's just confusing when people look up peer-to-peer. They'll see one definition when it's actually something else. It's more what Warframe uses is more similar to a listen server situation.
Okay, so that's what it's called, listen server. Got it. Yeah. Well, I guess there are a lot of issues with listen server too. Some of the things that I think a lot of people go through is like, and we can attribute this to what we just mentioned. Like, let's say there is a host migration, or let's say there is a host migration, or let's say the host themselves, their computer can't handle that. Their specs aren't that strong. It could even be the distance, like that between
the regions.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing that DE is also technically, I would say, not responsible for. I think when DE first created the game, like back in 2012, back when the founder era, Andre, but yeah, back in those days, I think they were catering towards more of a North American audience, and I don't think they realized that the game would take off and become as big as globally. And it's been well received by a lot of different audiences. Including the Asian community, the European community. Like we have different servers now for that. Like even if you go to like region chats, like for example for trading or for just even simply saying hello, and you can change in the gameplay options. You can change your region settings. So there definitely is a player base worldwide. But the thing is, I think when DE intended the game for listen server, I don't think they realized that at the time in terms of the model that they would have, let's say, a North American host hosting to a player who's in Mongolia, or another player maybe even in
Australia.
So I think when DE created this model initially, they intended it for a North American audience, and right now, I mean, as the world stands, we've talked about this before in a different interview. I think it was our first one. The game is international, and our clan actually happens to be international. So we have players that are all over the world, and so realistically, we could have like a New York City host, a player in the Philippines. Playing, connecting to that host, and then we can have another player in Switzerland. We can have another player in, let's say, I don't know, in Egypt,
India.
So yeah, anywhere India. Actually, India. So that's quite realistic, and I don't think DE intended their game to be running with that kind of model. That's not DE's fault. That's not what I'm saying. But at the same time, technology has improved communication to the point where, realistically, even in businesses, we do live conferences, we do online seminars, stuff like that. We do all kinds of stuff online now, especially with the whole COVID thing. So there's been a big push for that. Realistically, I don't think in 2012, that's not what DE intended. So I'm not trying to jump to the DE's defense, but the game times have evolved. The thing is that does DE have the resources to be able to support that, or do they have solutions for that? That's a question that I think we're going to address in a bit. But my take on it is that sadly, a lot of the times when we're faced with these types of things, they actually affect a lot of stuff that happens in the game, and a lot of desync issues occur as a result of that. Again, that's not necessarily D's fault. Like, just so the community and you guys also understand, let's say Andre's hosting from, let's say, somewhere in the United States, and the amount of servers and ISPs, even like there isn't just one ISP in the United States. There are multiple. What are they, guys? I forgot. There's Verizon. I'm not familiar.
Comcast,
Comcast.
AT&T.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say
There's a
like we
plethora.
have. There you go. There you go. And they're like large companies. But for some reason, one node might be bogged down. Maybe like one server is not functioning properly, and so when you get all this network traffic that's going through, there could be network congestion even. And so all this information is being sent and packaged, but through what we call packets. And I'm not that tech savvy, but I know in this basic knowledge. So this information gets sent, and sometimes not all the packets arrive at their destination. So let's say Andre sends information to my computer, and my computer says, "Yep, okay," and I send it back. And sometimes that information that gets sent back doesn't arrive properly, which causes
No,
Game of
that's
telephone.
definitely true. Definitely true.
It's like playing the game of telephone.
Yeah. I'm just looking through like Warframe Reddit, and just looking up on this topic, and I've seen situations where like people in the same region, they have low ping, low MS, and just connecting to a guy down the road, they can't get less than 50 ping for some reason, and they don't know why.
Yeah.
Jay, I know you experienced this just connecting with JB, right?
Right.
You guys
So
live
JB,
relatively close to each other, even though you guys have different ISPs.
right.
You're what's your general ping, just for shits and giggles?
300 and something.
200 all the way to like 500, probably
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
See, like that's why I would expect connecting to someone in Korea from the West Coast.
Yeah, I could walk to JB's house. Like, JB, how far do we live apart? Like, roughly? What would you say?
Like almost like 500 meters away, or like almost a kilometer.
Yeah, but 500 meters to a kilometer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
Yeah, it is, and it's difficult, especially when you're trying to do a lot of other stuff. So, like JB and I, like sometimes like we're on Discord. Discord's working fine, and it's like, did you get the rewards? No. It's like I got host migrated,
yeah.
or like
That's really strange, huh?
I pressed 5. I'm pressing transference. I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
I can't use my operator, stuff like that. And then you hear a lot of the lag stuff that I'm sure like a lot of clans in their discords, a lot of members they go through. And the funny thing is, like, these are guys that are like we're what, a kilometer apart, and then I'm sure some of these guys are like Singapore to let's say LA or something like that. Like it would sound like a conversation like that, something like that. In fact, I get actually better ping to Andre. I get 200 steady ping to Andre, and it's always
That's
steady.
true. That's true.
I
The
think
ping
it's just
warning
IPS
is always the
there.
same. It's like always maybe.
I think that's just IPS right there, or
ISP. Yeah.
ISP.
Yeah.
I
It
think
probably
IPS.
it might be.
Yeah, I think this is it's such an important topic that I don't think gets talked about enough or addressed enough, because I think in this day and age there are very few people who are willing to put up with lag, something like lag these days. Just like, not even talk about gaming. Like my mom, for example, if her Netflix lags, she will pull every single like kid in the house out and ask them what the heck is going on.
Oh boy.
Like
Oh.
no one can deal with
Yep.
lag anymore.
Yeah. That's right. We've had a taste of like seamless lag, yeah, and that's the generation these days. It's absolutely right.
Oh
So for you
man.
guys, how does lag, I guess, affect like our gameplay now? Like we're not like for beginners, like they see a little bit lag, like it's kind of whatever, it's not high stakes for them. But
Mhm.
for us, we're investing a lot of time, and then when we get something like a host migration, like that could mean like
yeah.
huge losses, and not just in
Yeah,
terms of
like
resources, but
everything.
that could be like a 2-hour farm we just lost.
Yeah.
It's also
Yeah.
life or death. In
Actually,
Warframe.
so I know a lot of players, when I start talking about this kind of stuff, it might turn into a debash, and I don't want. That's not what I'm inviting here. But there are situations where lag or And they fix these things over patches, which I applaud them for. Like, this is really, really great stuff. But some of the stuff, it was very frustrating, and I think that they lost a lot of players for when this happened. And I'm attributing.
What are some
when-
good changes they made? Because you told me a story a little while ago about like a good change they did, right? It had to do with dojos or something.
Yeah. Okay. So, for example, dojos were hosted by DE servers. Then actually, they're hosted by players and then DE servers, and this has gone back and forth. So there was a time, for example, where one of our guys who's using like I think equivalent to probably like a like first generation dial-up. I mean first generation DSL.
Potato. We call this potato stream.
Yeah. If TechPod ever hears this, we're not talking about you, dude. So, yeah, we're talking about like So like let's say like we're talking like basic like internet, like probably like I don't know, let's say like not even like 500 kilobytes a second. Like we're talking about maybe 100 kilobytes, maybe even less. And he has a connection like that, and he was in the dojo and he left his computer on, and he was the only one in the dojo. So when dojos were actually hosted by players at some point or whoever was in there, this became a massive issue because we're an international clan. We have people trying to connect to this one guy, and we're all trying to do trades. And we'd have these times when we're all in the squad. We're like, okay, you guys don't have this. All right, I have like 5 of these. Let me get them to you guys. So the entire squad's trying to load in. You have 4 people trying to connect into the dojo, and the one guy is like, he's not even at his computer, and it's taking like 5 minutes to get into the dojo. Most likely, it's like a 2-minute thing of your ship flying, and then it never arrives. You just go right back to your orbiter, and it says like, it's whatever connection. You can't even connect to the dojo. So this happened for days. So we couldn't access any of the dojo content, none of it. So newbies trying to get blueprints or us trying to do whatever, like
no
trading
or anything. Oh my
nothing.
god.
We were shut down for like days. So I think there are probably hate posts and a lot of things like, can you please do this or whatever, like the dojo is like lagging or something like that.
The
And
guy didn't even know, huh?
he didn't even know. Yeah, and by the time like the poor guy, like by the time like he's still in our clan now, and like he's probably eternally sorry for it because of the flack that we gave him. But we're like, can you please not just sit in the dojo, please? If you're gonna sit anywhere, sit in your orbiter. And you go, oh, I had no idea. It's like, yes, you were hosting the entire dojo. We cannot connect to the dojo because we're all trying to connect to you. So get out of there. And yeah, a lot of people were pretty angry about it, but that's like frustration that I think that D has like improved in that sense. Like they've recognized the fact that this is happening, and then they patch it, and they're actually pretty quick to patch a lot of things, which is good. There are some things I think that remain unpatched, and we could talk about a billion things about stuff that doesn't get patched, but in terms of like stuff like that, they do patch it. Another thing was like Plains of Eidolon Fortuna release. But this is both a sad story and a happy story because D did fix it. They did in the end, and it was quite quick that they came to the fixes. Because I don't know if you guys were you guys around for Plains of Eidolon's release or Fortuna release?
yeah.
You guys were around for
I
Fortuna
wasn't.
release,
I was around for Fortuna.
right? Okay.
I was.
So did you guys ever go into a mission and then you came out of the mission and then the host left first and then you actually got host migrated because the host would leave first and then all your rewards disappeared? Do you remember this? And you go through maybe even multiple host migrations. JB, you remember that? Okay. Anybody else?
Like, a lot.
Think so, maybe.
Yeah,
I remember
dude,
the host migration
that was
part, but I
so
didn't know they
frustrating.
removed your items.
Yeah. That's right. And you lose everything. So you could be in there having fun, maybe doing like, oh, there's like fishing. Ooh. So you do fishing and then you do, let's go do some mining. Ooh. You never experienced? Okay, you're lucky.
No.
And then
I seem to be the lucky one here in all of this.
Yeah. Maybe I think it's your founder's title. I think yours
My
is special.
founder
You
status
have
is protecting me
access.
here.
Maybe you can borrow it sometime. But anyway,
This guy's a
let's say
founder.
you
We gotta keep
let's say you did like 2 hours of like fishing or like 3 hours of mining. You have hundreds of resources now that you've mined up. And this is like a big time sink because we talked about this before, but time is the main currency in the game. You do all this work and then after that, you get host migrated, kaboom, everything that you had is now gone. And this is
Zero.
yeah, and it's like you just feel so demotivated from playing or from doing anything further. And it's like it's for me when it happened to me, it wasn't rage. It was just upsetting. It was upset to the point where it's like when you're arguing with somebody and you just don't even want to say anything, you just turn to Jello and you're just like, yeah, okay.
It's not
kinda
worth
like
the
that.
effort or the time
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's
That's how they feel. Yeah.
right. And so I think there were a lot of players that experienced this. I think like I said before, I don't know coding, I don't know programming, but they fixed it, which is great. But it came at the cost of their integrity, I believe. And I don't mean this in any sort of attack on any of you members of the DE, but it does reflect on you because it's a free to play game. Yeah, that's true. But there are people who actually pay money for the game. They pay to support these things, and there are certain expectations that they have, and especially when it's like time, when it's that's your currency. That's extremely deadly, I think, because like let's say I just installed Warframe recently. Let's say like a few days ago. Let's say I have like a really difficult schedule, meaning like I work a really heavy work schedule, and then maybe on top of that there's school. Um, maybe on top of that there's family, and that's realistic because, or even two out of those three things, and that's already a big chunk of our day. So that 2 hours that we have is very, very precious. And then you go and then you can imagine here what I'm getting to. Like after 2 hours of doing that, and then you get zero, it's crushing. It's like, what's the response? And sometimes people will if you're lucky, they'll actually go onto the forums, they'll complain about it. DE has the opportunity to identify these issues, and then they actually rectify them, which they did, and that's great that you did. But at what cost? So we lost so many players in our clans. Like you lost many customers as a result of that, and that's actually kind of sad. And I think that a lot of these things could have been attended to before release, because when releasing it in that way, and then the lag impacts the game in this way, and then especially when it comes to loot, it's so, yeah, it's a heavy weight, for I think you to bear in terms of responsibility. So, I think this could have been addressed before it got to that point. But anyway, it is a happy story somewhat. They did fix it. Yay! We don't lose loot
Yeah.
like that anymore.
Yeah.
Mm.
They
And if you
did.
guys
But
notice,
there's still like room for improvement, though, right?
that there is. But if you guys
That's
notice, like the host is always the last to leave now. You guys know that? Like whenever you leave Fortuna, if ever you leave like Plains of Eidolon, anything like that,
No.
the host is always the last to leave.
Really?
You are such a noob. Oh my god. Like because you don't hunt enough, you don't know. If you are the host, let's say you are like the DPS frame, and usually the DPS frame is the host. The DPS is the last to load out. And anybody who's far from him or has bad computer, etc., the host feels it too, because the host is stuck there at the door, waiting for that other computer to calculate all its information, like whatever the rewards are, etc., etc. So that actually, yeah, that is there.
Oh.
You guys want to try it? You could try it anytime. Anyway, next question.
Well, I mean, Eidolon Hunt was like probably one of the big ones that lag affected, but there's also like Kuva farming, right? I can't tell you how many times I'm looking for that disappearing little ball of black gas or whatever, only
It's
to
red.
have it
It's
like
not black,
appear behind
it's
me
red.
again.
It's like red. Excuse me.
I don't know. It's a queef for I don't know. Maybe we should edit it out.
Oh god.
But,
Oh god. I don't people even know what this channel even know what a queef is, but yeah. Okay, go on.
but like I've had situations where like okay, I dash there an operator, which okay, we haven't even talked about operator lag yet, but like I miss it and then I clap and I miss it and the gas goes into the Kuva siphon and then I'm like I'm screwed because like we didn't get to stack it up enough, and I'm like damn it, and then Jay's up my booty hole for it and Andre's laughing and then we got the whole R2D2 screaming again
Those are the old days. Now it's okay. I don't think it happens anymore.
I think I'm gonna miss those days.
Yeah. How many fights did we get into, or how many arguments? How many times did we have like feel bad situations as a result of these things? Oh my god.
It's like in the end we realized that it's no one's fault.
Yeah, I know I'm doing a lot of talking again, but a lot of the end game and the mechanics revolve around like dodging this or dodging that, or like getting out of the way of this, or just around like a lot of lag related stuff. Like I wouldn't say lag related stuff. A lot of mechanics where lag can be just punishing. And I think I know we use Eidolon hunting a lot, but let's just say it's the Eidolon. It's the second Eidolon. Let's say it's Gary, right? And there's lasers, and then it's like, oh, I'm dead. I don't even
Yep.
know how I died, right? And it's like, if you understand,
Invisible
actually,
death.
technically, if you invisible death, because there's lasers there, and they're like, how did I even die? And it's like, dude, get the lures out of the way, crawl out of there. Maybe you're the trainer or something. And you're like, get out of there, get out of there. Well, what? I don't even see anything. There's lasers. There go all the lures. It's like, what? And it's like, now I see the lasers, and you see these big yellow pillars of doom, right? And it's like, okay, that was lag, and this stuff happens.
Or when you do see it coming and you go to press operator so you can avoid all that damage, but then
Right.
your Warframe just stands there and you're like, what's going on? I'm smashing the button.
Yeah. You have 5 seconds of, okay, it's calculating. Okay, I went operator, but because you're smashing it, you just went right back into Warframe. You're like, oh my god. I was trying to go operator, but like all the inputs, I guess, like added up, and then
Finally caught up, yeah.
yeah, and then even though the return is like it caught that up too, and I'm like, no, stop. So there are a lot of things that are like a lot in terms of like the networking that are very strongly, I feel, related towards operator, and this is like, it's not only the transference out, and D has fixed a lot of these things, and I applaud them for that too. Like Plains of Eidolon, like
they're
when
doing
we're
a great
hunting.
job for sure.
Yeah, like they switched it so that 5-second lag going into operator has been significantly reduced now. But there are new bugs, like for example, when you go operator and then you go back into Warframe, there are new bugs. For example, the cannot do anything bug. But that's been around for a while. Like back into your Warframe, and then your Warframe is always facing a certain direction, and no matter what key you input, like you can bullet jump and everything, but you'll always be facing that same direction, which looks really awkward. So if you're facing, let's say, like straight, and let's say you jump backwards, you're always facing straight. You can jump to the side, but you're still facing straight. So it's like really, really weird. It's just you're always facing straight, no matter what, and you're always running. That's the other thing. And then none of your weapons work. Transference no longer works. I think it's a desync. That's the best way I guess I could classify it. I'm not very well versed in a lot of these technical things, but these things happen, and the only way to get around this is to die. And sometimes,
if you're able to even move or put yourself in a situation to die.
Yeah, and sometimes the enemies, you're so heavily desynced that the enemies can't even attack you. They don't even see you. So you're like running around, kill me, and then they don't even attack you. They're just like, nope, I don't even know you, dude. I don't even know you. It's like they just ignore you. You're just like the alienated guy. So a lot, in the open world, just letting anybody who's listening, the way around it is to deploy K drive. That's like the one thing that somehow realigns.
Jumping into water, right? Because it forces a respawn.
Even then, it sometimes doesn't work.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. Even like falling into like a pit or like a hole or like an area in the ship where where it's like you disappear and reappear, it doesn't work. The only way is to actually die or deploy K drive. Now, if you deploy K drive in open world, there's a new bug to get around that. So if you deploy K drive, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna post. You actually just fall right down. You actually fall through the ground.
We're deep in the rabbit hole now, guys.
So when you fall through the ground, the only way out of that is to deploy Arcwing. Now, if you deploy Arcwing, it's really weird because you're still falling now, and you can see actually Plains of Eidolon, like the grass.
Oh yeah. It's really weird.
You guys ever got that? Yeah.
Yeah,
So you can actually see all
like the connected, like where the tiles connect to each other. Actually.
Yes.
The pieces that make up Plains of Eidolon.
Yes,
Never seen it.
Never seen it. Okay, because you're always hosting.
Is it just me?
Yeah, it's your founder status.
Yes, definitely. But in doubt, blame the founder status.
Yep. You get
Andre gets perfect gameplay because perfect gameplay because he's the founder.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, like getting back on track, like you can deploy Arcwing, but the funny thing is, if you actually go right back up, you actually start clipping through everything. So you can clip through like every object, and I think the only way to do that is, I forgot how I got out of it, actually. Sorry, community, I kind of forgot. But once you get there, I think it's to redeploy K drive when you're above the ground or something like that. But another way is that you can, you can try to die in the game. So for some reason, if there are things like lasers, you can actually still get hit by them. Or like, let's say like you're fighting infested and there's like those puddles that they drop out, the Transmulis Moas. Those
the puddles.
Toxin auras, things like that. Stuff that's just AoE based that it's like you're supposed to avoid. That stuff will kill you. So if you can manage to get in there, get your Warframe in there, and you die, then you can resync. The only problem is when it's like really punishing, where for example, when there are team mechanics that are based on that stuff, like Eidolons. Like you don't really want to die in an Eidolon hunt because that really slows down the team. That's one problem. The other problem is
I'm thinking about like newer players who don't have as many like respawns. They may not have like arcanes yet to get like extra revives.
Yeah.
If this happens just a few times, that could be the end of that run for them.
Yeah, and a lot of them I think will just alt F4. Like that's usually the what I get with pubs. Like they just say, okay, I don't know what's even happening. Sometimes they can't even chat; they just disappear, and I just assume sometimes that that's the reason. But you can get around it that way. The only problem is when it's very punishing, like also with arbitration. Like you only get one life in arbitration, so that death really hurts the team too. Like maybe you're doing an infested salvage, or maybe you're doing whatever speed run that you can't get endo, and you could have like a very tanky Warframe. So even dying takes a long time, and that affects the gameplay to a major point. It affects the entire team, because if you have, let's say, one guy who's responsible for a specific role, let's say heavy CC, or let's say he's the kill frame or something like that, you get into a bunch of issues where that role is no longer happening, which also provides more burden on another role. So let's say it's a kill frame that's supposed to kill everything, and then there's like, let's say, the protection. Let's say it's a Blestrin that's built hybrid, so they provide overshielding and energy return and the bless, plus everyone has adaptation. Well, when you're surrounded by level 300 enemies and you're just completely surrounded and the kill frame's not killing anything, you're going to get chewed down pretty fast. So people are going to be like, dude, when are you coming back? When are you coming? Dude, I'm trying to die. I can't even die. Like, it's so hard. And then finally, when they die, you have to go, and now you have to go through the mechanics in arbitration where you have to collect all the little tiny orb things to try to bring them back, which means debuffs, severe debuffs, like HP reduction. It's just wow. Like, this is so hard. Like, if he never desynced to this point, this would have never happened. So we have to. The death is the only way that we know how to resync for now. We've talked about it before. Maybe that if we had an auto kill button where we can just kill ourselves, that wouldn't be bad. But I think a lot of new players, or I could see a lot of people abusing this as well. So I mean, I don't know which way to go with this, but there was,
I see what you mean. But the tools that we do have in game right now are like legitimate tools, like is unstuck, and then all the other stuff is just like stuff we kind of figure out on our own. They're kind of incidental, like, oh, let's try to see if maybe it works. And some of those things are only available if you're in an open game world anyways, right? Open world game anyways, right? Like Arcwing is not available in all missions. K-Drive is not available in all missions.
Right, that's right. So death is the only other thing. Like, we've tried despawning, we've tried other things. There's no way around it. A lot of times, it's either that or let's redo the whole thing. But it's painful when it's like 45 minutes in and you're like, okay, let's redo the whole thing. It's like, no one really wants to do it anymore. So
what are some ways, like other games you guys have seen that have handled lag well? Myself, I've started playing Path of Exile recently, and it's not really a network thing, but it's rather, it has to do with like graphical requirements in the game, where there's like a lot of things on screen that are happening, a lot of time, with like all like effects and spells, and damage numbers coming up and item drops all over the place. The game will reduce its graphical what's the word I'm looking for, Jay? Graphical needs.
The rendering.
Its resolution?
Yeah. The rendering is different. They completely change it. It's not set. Let's say even if you're at, like, your FPS will basically remain the same, so that the FPS itself doesn't lag. Doesn't become like a PowerPoint show. Just to some of you guys who don't know Path of Exile.
No.
Path of Exile is a top-down hack and slash with very, very complex mechanics. It's a free-to-play game. I'm not trying to advertise it. I'm just saying, if ever you look it up on
how they
YouTube or
handle
something.
lag.
Yeah. So if you look at Diablo 3, that's like, a lot of people know Diablo 3 or the Diablo series a lot more than Path of Exile, but they're similar games. And you run around with a 4-man squad as well, at max. And that game, like in the past, how used to happen was that, with certain spells, like, you could actually, if they would be like cast on hit. So if you get hit by something, you automatically start casting things. But then you have, let's say, one item that can, like, greater projectile that connects to, like, punch through, that connects to, like, so many other things. Right.
Yeah.
And so
on a
you
computer
getting
like
hit.
mine, a toaster, it would just like, the screen would stop moving, and like my only option is to like bring up Task Manager, and that's basically like everyone knows, it's like, you're shutting down the game to start it again. Basically, there's not much you can do at that point.
So now, like, the way they addressed it was to change the FPS stuff. So now it's like, okay, we have to say that again.
Maintain FPS, maintain game integrity, the mechanics at least.
So basically, the FPS, instead of like you going to PowerPoint show, it basically you go into like it reduces your FPS or something like that. Maybe you know more about it. Anthony.
No. It's the it's kind of like YouTube. YouTube does this actually. Let's say you're watching a video at like 1080, right? But then your internet starts slowing down. But instead of slowing your buffering, YouTube will seamlessly move that to a lower
That's why it
resolution.
happens.
Resolution, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so
It switches
it'll drop to
720p,
low resolution,
360p.
so you can still
Yep.
hear the content. Everything's still moving on the screen. You know, the only thing that's changed is the resolution, and so that's what Path of Exile does. They maintain the integrity of the gameplay, the mechanics,
That's right. That's right.
and what you can see, so you can still react in the game properly. It's just going to look a little shitty for a moment, until things clear up.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what happens. That's absolutely right. Because Path of Exile, just like Diablo, especially when you're going for ladder and stuff like that,
Which is like ranked.
And like one death really screws everything up, and
Mhm.
so, and especially with team synergy compositions where you're going in trying to do things as a team, one guy dies, then, I mean,
The whole
everyone has to
flow
wait.
breaks up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. So the whole flow breaks. So it's instead of doing that and making it punishing, where it's like that also they have that to fix that or address it so that players aren't punished by those kinds of things. And actually, I'm not sure if you guys know Monster Hunter World. Like that's another game. There's still a lot of latency apparently in the game. But if ever any of you guys play Monster Hunter World, I've never played it that much, but it was very odd because I've played, let's say, like Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege, by the way, is hosted by Ubisoft. Like they actually have servers everywhere. So Monster Hunter World is, I don't think they're also listen server, but I don't think they're dedicated servers. Now most FPS games are dedicated servers, like Six Siege and
Yeah, they need
Rainbow
that,
Six.
right?
Right.
They can't be any lag
Counter-Strike.
whatsoever.
That's right. Counter-Strike can also be hosted by players as well, but like the thing is that they have those people, like those companies, sorry, I should say, they have the money, they have the infrastructure to back that up. I'm not saying that DE should do that because to do that it costs like so much money.
Man.
You're gonna have to buy
Yeah,
servers
infrastructure is much.
everywhere. Yeah, that's right, and you have to pay for all that or rent it. Either way, so it's quite expensive. And so let's look at it the other way. So let's say like Monster Hunter is listen server, and when you look at Monster Hunter gameplay, it's almost seamless lag. And the reason why is because a lot of this stuff is client based. Like right now, the way Warframe is set up, if let's say there's a boss that we fight or something where it's very heavily mechanics based, if I'm hosting, then everybody, whoever else, wherever you are in the world, or even like it doesn't matter. My computer is responsible for doing a lot of those calculations, and my hardware is the one that goes through the strain and does all the refereeing, as you mentioned earlier. Let's say for Monster Hunter World, what they do is it seems more like your individual computers like play the boss fight itself, and then so a lot of the the punishing mechanics are calculated by your own computer, so you're being tested like almost seamlessly, like lag free. So if
they're more peer-to-peer than Warframe is, it sounds like.
I don't really know if I'm going to be honest, I have no idea. I don't know. But
I'm just going based off of that definition that we got earlier.
It could be. I mean, I don't know. But this is what I do know. You can have 4 people that go into a squad, just like in Warframe. And I'm not advertising for people to play that game. That's not the point. It's just so I hope anybody
it's
listening.
Just a comparison. Yeah, we're good. We're past that.
All right, okay, cool. It's just that those mechanics are like they're real time. Like there's no lag. Like there's no lag at all. And if you can't dodge it, that's your fault because your computer challenged you. And if you don't put the inputs in fast enough on your keyboard or on your mouse, well, too bad you're dead, or too bad you lose this, or etc. You lost the opportunity. So either way, mechanics are based on that.
That's interesting. So it sounds like everyone is essentially finding their own version of the boss. It's just the boss is kind of synced for the other players.
To be honest, I think it is, and HP and all of that stuff, I think is still done that way. You know what? I don't work there, so and I'm not saying you're insinuating that. I don't know. I don't know
Oh,
exactly how it's done. But
yeah, I'm just trying to
it seems to be
understand.
that way. Yeah.
Mm.
But I like mechanics are not punishing. But you still get the disconnects here and there. That's what I heard. Like people who play it, but a lot of people love that aspect of the game. Like the mechanics and the gameplay are so fun as a result of that. And I don't know if it's possible for DE to look at that. I'm not saying because DE has in their history looked at other games and said no, we're going to do it our way, and that's cool. Like I respect that. In fact, they are where they are now as a result of a lot of those decisions. But there are things I think that other companies do to move past certain things that plague a game, and I would say lag. Although it's sad to say it this way, none of us are technically savvy. None of us can actually say anything, give an actual outright suggestion. Although we love this game and we want to, there's nothing that we can offer because we're not good enough
Yeah.
to do that.
This was a
But-
very like daunting topic for me because like I was thinking
Yeah,
like,
same.
Jay, I don't know what I can really add to this conversation. Like I don't want to make it sound like
Yeah.
I'm just complaining, but
Yeah,
I
that's right.
also want things to improve, and the best I can do is look to see what other people are doing and say, I don't know if you looked at this DE, like maybe this might work
Right.
for you. I don't know if you considered this.
Right. And that's what I hope that's how they view this. Yeah, and I didn't want it to turn into a big shit fest. Like
Yeah,
people
me neither.
have
None of us does. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people have the tendency to point fingers and blame, and I think that's actually a big problem. Like without getting too digressing down that topic, but that is a common thing, and a lot of people DE gets a lot of flack for stuff that they're not responsible for, and so that's what we want to clearly outline in the video. And for just like you, Anton, like I know exactly where you're coming from because that's exactly how I felt about it, and I think yeah, all of us felt the same way. Like we have nothing that we can validly contribute, but at the same time, we wanted to say that this is an issue that plagues the game because we don't want to lose players as a result of that. We don't want to see clan sizes get smaller. We love the game, and we still want the game to be fun. And I think that's actually at its core. I think that's what DE is all about. Like they're about like making the game fun and making it so that the player experience is very rich. And I think that lag is one of the things that really, especially at the end game level, you've done all this grind, you spent all this time gearing up, getting everything done that you needed to do, whatever it is, the content that you're preparing for, just to be plagued by these types of issues, which really hampen the flow of the game. So if there was a way to address it, great. And but we just wanted to tell you tell you DE that is something that really affects us. yeah. It's done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Lag can make or break a game in this day and age. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to thank Jay, JB, Tyler, Andre for coming in today and talking with everyone about how lag affects you. But we as a community we still try and look past that. We still love this game. I want to thank you guys so much. I want to thank you everyone that's been listening, and DE, if you're listening, so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you guys.